Macmillan Children's Readers. Published and copyright Macmillan Publishers Limited 2012. New York. Written by Paul Shipton. The Big Apple.
New York is on the east coast of the United States. It is not the capital of the USA, but it is bigger than every other city in the country. More than 8 million people live there. Many people call New York the Big Apple. It is a big, exciting city.
Areas of New York.
There are 5 different parts of New York. Most of the city's famous buildings are in Manhattan. Manhattan is an island. It is not very big, just 21.6 kilometers long and 3.7 kilometers wide. New Yorkers often call Manhattan the city. There are not many houses in Manhattan. Most people live in apartments.
Into the sky.
Over 100 years ago, more and more people wanted to live in New York. But Manhattan is a small island. The answer was easy. New Yorkers decided to build up. The Flatiron Building was built in 1902. It is still a popular site for tourists. Now New York is famous for its many skyscrapers. Most of them are in the middle of Manhattan. The Flatiron Building was one of New York's first skyscrapers. The Chrysler Building is a beautiful and unusual building. The designers wanted the top of the building to look like car wheels.
The Empire State Building.
The Empire State Building is a very famous tall building. Until 1972, no building in the world was taller than it. Tourists can go up to the 102nd floor for a fantastic view of the city. In 1933, the Empire State Building was in a very famous film. In King Kong, the gorilla climbs to the top of the building.
An international city.
After 1800, many people moved to the United States from different countries. Many of them arrived in New York. Between 1892 and 1954, more than 12 million new Americans arrived in the city. Some areas in New York still feel like a part of the old country. There are more Italians in New York than there are in Rome. When they arrived in New York, many Italians lived in Little Italy. This part of the city is quite small, but it is still a great place to visit. Chinatown is a big, busy area in Manhattan. 75% of the people living there are Chinese, and there are lots of Chinese restaurants, shops, and businesses. The area even has 7 Chinese newspapers. New York is still an international city. Almost 40% of New Yorkers were born in other countries. It is an international city in another way too. New York is the home of the United Nations. This world organization started in 1945. Now, 192 countries belong to it. The United Nations building is on the east side of Manhattan, but it is not part of the USA. The United Nations building is international land. Each country in the United Nations has its flag flying outside the building.
The Statue of Liberty.
On a little island south of Manhattan, there is a very famous site, the Statue of Liberty. This statue was a present to the United States from the people of France in 1886. It is 93 meters tall. There are 354 steps from the ground to the head. Tourists can visit a museum at the bottom of the statue. There are stairs inside the statue up to the head, but visitors can't go up the arm to the top of the statue.
Getting around.
As Manhattan is a small island, it is quite easy to get around on foot, or you can use New York City's subway system. Most of the trains run under the streets. There are 468 subway stations. In 2010, people used the New York City subway 1.6 billion times. If you want to see the city, you can also go by bus, or take one of the city's famous yellow taxis. There are more than 13,000 of them. There are ferries between Manhattan and the other parts of New York City. One ferry goes to and from Staten Island. This ferry is free, and passengers get a fantastic view of the Statue of Liberty.
New York bridges.
There are many bridges between Manhattan and the other parts of New York City. One very famous one is the Brooklyn Bridge over the East River. This bridge opened in 1883. Before that time, Brooklyn and Manhattan were separate cities. People travelled between them by boat. About 150,000 cars cross the Brooklyn Bridge every day. You can also walk or ride a bike across it.
Central Park.
New York is a big, busy city with lots of people and buildings. But New Yorkers can enjoy a quiet walk or get some exercise under beautiful trees in Central Park. Central Park is not a natural part of Manhattan. New Yorkers planned the park and started to build it in 1858. They planted 500,000 plants and trees in the ground and made lots of paths and stone bridges. In Central Park, you can visit a zoo, go to a restaurant, visit an art gallery, or take a boat on the lake. In the winter, you can go ice skating.
Places to visit.
There are many different places for tourists to visit. The American Museum of Natural History is near Central Park. The film A Night in the Museum is set in this museum. Bronx Zoo is a big zoo in the middle of the city. It has got over 4,000 animals. The gorilla area is one of the visitors' favourites. The gorillas live in an area of rainforest.
Shopping and eating in the city.
New York is a great place to go shopping. There are thousands of shops, from little specialist shops to huge department stores. Macy's department store is one of the largest stores in the world. Tiffany's jewellery shop is famous around the world. The city is a great place for food too. There are more than 20,000 restaurants. You can get food from anywhere in the world. You can go to very expensive, famous restaurants, or you can eat cheaply from street stalls. The American hot dog started in New York.
Special days.
Every November, thousands of people come to run in the New York Marathon. The runners go through all 5 parts of the city. The race ends in Central Park. In the USA, the last Thursday of November is Thanksgiving Day. On this holiday, there is always a huge parade in New York. Outside the city, Americans can watch the parade on TV. On the 31st of December, 1 million people celebrate New Year's Eve in Times Square. They watch a big glass ball drop down a pole at midnight.